Hello, and welcome to Jolineknitsalot. This is my show about knitting and crafting and the things I get up to here in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. When last we met, your intrepid knitter was entering into a polar vortex. It was really, really cold here. Most people weren't leaving their houses unless they really had to, including myself. But the polar vortex has moved on. And I know that a lot of other people around are experiencing really awful winter weather right now with lots of snow and cold. But here in Edmonton, the weather has warmed up a little bit. And for the next few days, we should have highs over the freezing mark. For us in Edmonton, in winter, that's pretty good. So I'm just enjoying the weather right now, the nice blue sky, sunny day. And I thought I'd come and talk to you about some of the things I've been working on lately. How about you? Have you been working on anything interesting of late? What's got your fancy right now? Why don't I show you a couple of the things that I've finished just since the last time we talked. I was working on some socks last time. These are my monthly sock along where I have a skein of sock yarn tucked away in some bags hidden right up there, and every month I pull it down and remind myself what color goes with what month. And then I get to knit a pair of socks. This year, most of the yarns, I think, are a sport weight, a Targhee Sport, in fact, dyed by Knitspin Farms. I was part of their sock club last year, and every month I got a skein of yarn. Some of them were nature inspired, and some of them were inspired by their farm life. This first skein is neither of those. This is the Thesaurus Day. Knitspin Farm also likes to celebrate some of the lesser known holidays. So the Thesaurus Day was January 18th. And these are the socks associated with that day, I suppose. My younger daughter says that they remind her of Rapunzel, and I think she's right. But these fun socks were knit up on 2.75 millimeter needles. I used the umbrella. No, I didn't. I used the Butterfly Heel by Kay Jones of the Bakery Bears, which is fast becoming my favorite set-in sock heel, and then just some regular toes. I used nearly all of the contrasting yarn that I got, which was a 20-gram mini. And I still have a fair amount. Of the sock yarn left. I don't think it's enough to knit a whole pair of socks. I'm sort of wondering what you guys do with your leftover sock yarn, especially the striping stuff. If it's tonal or speckled, I think it's easier to use in another project, but the striping stuff is a little bit difficult, I think, unless you have enough for a whole nother pair of socks. So I'd love to know what you do with your leftover self-striping sock yarn. Please let me know in the comments below. I have one other little knitting project off the needles, and this is related to a class I'm going to be teaching at the Fiber Nook in February, and this was on mosaic knitting. So I wanted to have some samples knit up so that we could have a look at what mosaic knitting is and what it looks like. And if you don't know, mosaic knitting is when you knit color work, but only work with one color at a time. So you may be knitting with one color and then slipping stitches of the other color to create a colorwork motif. And so I have done that here. I have made 4 samples using the same chart. These two are a stocking stitch background, and this is all mosaic knitting. Let me show you what the back looks like. It's a little bit like stranded knitting in the sense that you do see some strands because you're slipping stitches, but you're not having to manage 2 colors at once. So this is the same chart, just with the colors flipped on a stockinette background. And then I did the same chart with garter stitch because mosaic knitting can be done either way. So this is that same chart, again, with mosaic stitches. You can see this one is a bit more textural. It's also interesting to see how different garter stitch and stockinette stitch are. So here's garter stitch. It likes to lie flat because every row is knit. So it's a very even fabric in the sense that each stitch is going to lay flat. There's no purls to sort of make it either curl in on the edges or change the stitch definition. But garter stitch also likes to compress on itself this way a little bit. And the stockinette stitch one is much taller because you've got all these knit stitches that aren't being, knit stitches on the right side that aren't being pulled down by a purl stitch in the opposing direction. So it's just interesting to see how this same chart works up in stockinette stitch and garter stitch. And these are little mug rugs that I've made up, and they are going to be what we're going to be working on in my mosaic knitting class. So if you're interested and in the Edmonton area, have a look at the Fibernook website. Mosaic knitting is definitely being used a lot. For example, this night shift shawl that I'm wearing by Andrea Mowry, and all of her shifty patterns are done using mosaic knitting. I have some other shawls that I have knit that use mosaic knitting for the colorwork section, and it's a really great introduction to colorwork. So if you're scared or intimidated by stranded colorwork, try mosaic knitting. Speaking of which, I have a mosaic knitting project that I think I'm going to be casting on in the next little while, and I'm going to show you the yarns I want to use for that. I have one last project that I have completed in the last couple of weeks. In fact, I just finished it yesterday, and that was my cross stitch. Now, if you remember, I was making some cross stitches before Christmas, and I kind of got into a bit of a swing with the cross stitch, and I found a series of cross stitch pictures by a Canadian artist called Diana Waters, and it's a mystery. So each cross stitch project is a room in a house, and each room describes one piece of the mystery. So it's either the who, the what, the where, the when, or the why. I've just finished the first one. It's called Luna's Living Room, and here it is. I just think it's a cute little project. I'm going to hang them in a cluster, I think, on the wall just behind you over there. And I actually really enjoyed doing this. Cross stitch requires a bit more focus because you're working from a chart and you're trying to put all the stitches in the right place. So it does require more focus, I find, than knitting. I can knit on autopilot quite easily, but this was a little bit more challenging, and it sort of exercised a different part of my brain than knitting does, which is fun. And that's maybe one of the things I like about crafting. So this is the very first room in the house. It's Luna's living room. And I think this is the when, because it's got a great big clock in it. But as the other, as I work on the other rooms, I'll let you know if I change my mind about what the clue on this one is. It's either when, or maybe it has something to do with this kite. I'm not sure, but I think it's the when. It's a cute little cat. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. I liked working on some of these interesting plants. There's some French knots right here. These ones are sort of a different stitch also. So it was fun just working on some different things. There's a dog walking by, and Blue is letting them know that this is his house. So yeah, that is my first room. It's called Luna's Living Room. And the next little project I think I'm going to be working on is the little portrait of Luna. This is an 8-inch frame. The portrait of Luna is 3 inches, so it's quite small. So I think that will be a nice little palette cleanser cross stitch, I'm hoping, but I'll let you know. And those are all the things that I have completed in the last couple of weeks. I do have some projects that I've been working on, but before I get to them, I thought I'd share with you this lovely little bouquet of flowers. That was a gift from my older daughter. They're all crocheted. Should I show them to you? This is a very large vase that I got at Winners, which I find to be a great place for vases. So she made me this lovely bouquet of flowers for my birthday. These Gerber daisies are my favorite, and they were some flowers that I had in my wedding bouquet. Mine were white, but these lovely ones will stay with me a longer time than my wedding ones. There's some tulips you can see in different colors. There's a rose, only one because she said that one was really tricky. And then there's a little rosebud too. And then some lilacs in there, you can see. So yeah, this is a really, really lovely gift from my older daughter. And I really enjoy having them here in my office where I get to see them all the time. She used some cotton yarn, a fingering weight. I believe it was Sheepy's Katona. But she's working on some more flowers now. She wants to make some for other people in her life. So she's using a little bit of a thicker yarn, a DK, because she feels like that'll be easier to work with. But if you're interested, I can find out the pattern that she used. And maybe if I talk to her nicely, she might even come and talk to you a little bit about the flowers that she's crocheted, if you're interested. So let me know in the comments below if you'd like to meet my older daughter Ava, who is the crochet artist in the family. I have a couple of projects on the needles that I think I'll just share with you quickly. I cast on some more socks because I'm always trying to stash down my sock yarn because I have so much of it. So this is a pair of self-striping sock yarn that I got also from Knit Spin Farms, and this yarn is a Corriedale yarn. I've been really enjoying working with Knit Spin Farms yarns, not only because of the fun stripes and the stories behind them, but because she uses different sheep breeds, and that is something that has been interesting for me. So this is Corriedale, which is a little bit, it's got a little bit of a halo. I don't know, maybe you can see on the yarn itself. Can you see that halo? Or is it just my face? There we go. Does that help? It's been lovely yarn to work with, I have to say. It is a little bit textural, so every once in a while there'll be like a bit of a thicker spot. It doesn't seem to bother me at all. And this is the Winter Bird Feeder colorway. And I can't remember all the birds that are involved, but I know this one's a blue jay, which we have around here. And I know this one is a black-capped chickadee, which I see all the time. So these socks that I'm knitting are being knit on 2.25 millimeter needles. I'm using 64 stitches, and these socks should fit me nicely. I was thinking about making them for my husband, but I bailed, and I'm making them for myself. I'm not sure how long I'm going to make the leg on these, maybe a little bit longer before I start a heel. And I'm hoping to get some progress on these while I watch some soccer games this weekend. And the other thing that I've been working on is my Paul Klee pullover. This sweater, I think, is going to be a favorite of mine. I had cast on the yoke after playing with some leftover sport weight yarns that I had lying around. And I had been keeping these yarns, I don't know, I keep odds and ends of yarns, and I don't really have a plan with them, but these ones really came together beautifully to create this yoke. And the pattern has different numbers of stripes for each, not each size, but a lot of the sizes. So depending on your size, you may have more or less of these stripes of colors. And I did block this yoke out. Maybe I'll insert a picture here because I really love this picture. Partly because the designer suggested that you block it out so that you know how deep your yoke is and how wide it is. You want to make sure it's going to fit. So I have tried this on. I'm quite happy with how it's looking. And then I was working on the body, and the body was really sort of sucking the life out of me. I'll be honest with you. All of this stockinette, I mean, the yarn is beautiful. It is the Ulysse yarn by this yarn company that I can never pronounce. It is a French yarn company. It is soft and really creates a lovely lofty fabric. This sweater is quite light, really, and it's just creating this lovely fabric. I'm really, really enjoying the yarn. I knit a lot of ribbing at the bottom. This is, I think, 3.5 inches of ribbing, so it is quite a bit of knitting. And now I'm happy to say I am on the cuff of the first sleeve. Now these sleeves do look pretty short, but the yoke of this sweater is quite deep. So this, from the top of the shoulder down to the armpit right here, is quite a deep sweater. So more than I would have knit in other yoked sweaters, which is fine. I think it'll be a nice sort of, I think it'll fit nicely when it's done. And I have tried this on when the sleeve was a little bit shorter. I just wanted to make sure that I was on track and everything was fitting nicely, and it is. So now I'm at the point where I'm having to knit something like 4¼ inches of ribbing at the cuff. So that is going to slow me down a little bit. But being on the sleeves means I'm getting there. And I think that this sweater is going to, once it's blocked, I think it's going to have a really lovely drape. I did, when I blocked all of this sweater up to the bottom of the yoke, there is some short row shaping at the back, and so this yarn here is just a little bit more relaxed than the rest of the body sweater yarn because it has been blocked. So I think that once I block this whole thing, it's going to be a bit more relaxed, unlike my dog. It's been really nice making progress on that sweater, and I have been wanting to knit this sweater for quite some time, so it's really enjoyable seeing it come off the needles. And it was one of the sweaters I really wanted to knit this year. Another sweater that I wanted to knit, I think is sort of in the planning stages, and it's the Eva cardigan by Petite Knits. It looks like this, and I'm going to be soon winding up some yarn for it. I'm going to be using this San Juan Woolworks yarn, which is a very similar color to the one I'm already working on. And my concern is that I really want this cardigan. I think it'll be fabulous to just throw on over top of a t-shirt and be cozy. But I'm concerned that it's going to be not the most exciting knit because it's mostly stockinette, and I'm using this color. It is DK weight, so it should go a little bit quicker than that one. And this yarn is called Spy Hop. It is a Finn and BFL cross lamb's wool. So it is similar to this one. I would say this one is slightly, ever so slightly more rustic. But having said that, it is still soft. It's a super lofty yarn. You can see it's really, really, really lofty. It's a worsted spun, a woolen spun yarn. So it's got a lot of air in it. And, oh no, it's spun worsted. Interesting. Is that what I said? What did I say? It's spun worsted according to the label, and it's a 3-ply DK weight. I really think that this is going to be a lovely sweater once it's finished, and I do want to be able to wear it, but I'm concerned that I'm going to find it a bit of a slog because it is plain knitting, and I think I need something to spice up my knitting. So I pulled out some skeins that I picked up on my recent trip. This last fall, I was on a trip to, I guess, the Pacific Northwest. I was in Seattle and Vancouver with a friend, and I purchased this yarn there for the Paul Klee pullover that I'm working on now. I purchased this yarn at Knit City in Vancouver, and I also picked up this yarn from the Spin Cycle shop in Bellingham, Washington. And so I'm thinking about doing this into a shift cowl. I do love like the pink colors. I think it's going to be really interesting and fun. I think it'll be very wearable, and I think it'll be really fun to work on. I'm always excited to work with Spin Cycle yarns because of the changing colors and the way that they play together. And these are the 3 colors I have to work with. This one is called Wallflower. This one is called Wallflower and Rusted Rainbow. So it's one of the strands is this color, and the other strand is Rusted Rainbow. And had I planned better, I would have used Rusted Rainbow on the other side, but I don't have that. I have a yarn called Nostalgia, which is a really deep burgundy. So these are the colors I'm going to be using to make up a shift cowl. I think I'm going to start with this one closest to my face, or in this corner, and then it kind of works down and across. And I think that having this to work on, because it is using both very colorful yarns and mosaic knitting, I think it'll be a fun sort of foil, if you will, to the very standard knitting that's going to be happening on that beautiful cardigan. It's not that I have anything against this cardigan. I really want the cardigan. I think that it's going to be something I wear all the time. I'm just worried that after knitting a lot of stockinette on the Paul Klee sweater, that working on another stockinette sweater is going to be a little, what's the word? I don't want to say boring, because I don't find knitting ever boring, but I just want something to like capture my interest a little bit also. So I think that working on this as well as the cardigan will be sort of a nice contrast. So I have some winding to do. I need to wind up these 3 skeins, and I need to wind up at least a couple skeins of this so that I'm ready to go once I've finished my Paul Klee pullover. How's your crafting going? Do you have plans? Are you getting stuck in a rut with your knitting? I felt like I was on a little bit of a rut with the body of the sweater, because it was just going quite slow. And I'll be honest with you, I was knitting the body of the sweater on 3mm needles. That is not a very big needle. This cuff is being knit on 2.75mm needles. So it's just been small needles, a lot of stitches. So hopefully with the DK pullover or cardigan, there'll be, the progress will happen faster just because it's a bigger weight of yarn and I'll be using bigger needles. So I'm looking forward to that. And that is really all I have to share with you today. I have, I'm wearing some mosaics. I am going to be working on some mosaics, and I'm going to be teaching some mosaics. So I'm excited to sort of delve into that knitting technique a little bit right now. It's not something I do all the time, but it's nice to dabble into different techniques. And it's a fun way to do color work that isn't quite as stressful as stranded color work can be. And that is all I have to share with you today. I'm looking forward to having a sunny day here and a little bit warmer than it has been. I'm also looking forward to maybe sneaking a nap in this afternoon. Fingers crossed. I hope in the next couple weeks you find time to do the things you like to do, whether that's working on a new knitting technique or sneaking in a nap when you can. I know I plan on knitting a lot. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.